Is there a way out? Can I change my brain? Am I just a victim to who I am? I'm your host, Steve Sisler. Stay tuned for another episode of Behavioral Insights.
Welcome back, my friends. It's Steve Sisler, here to talk about human behavior, human motivation, and axiology, three of my favorite subjects. I've been away from the microphone for quite some time because I've been working on our new assessment platform. Oh, my God. If you have not taken an assessment with us, to see how your mind functions, you are missing out. We have maximized this process. We have maximized this tool, and we are so ready to rock and roll. Coming up, more insights into how the mind works and how we can measure yours. My friends, it has been a while. I've just been very busy working on the back end of our profiling system, so you haven't heard from me in a while. Plus, I needed a break because I don't have guests on my show. I come up with my own content. Sometimes it's difficult for me to try to figure out what I want to talk about, and rather than work through it, I just ignore it, which isn't maybe the best thing for you. Anyway, I want to talk about a few things in light of recent events, that being our election cycle, maybe the last 4 years and the coming 4 years. But I want to address it from a brain point of view, a human nature standpoint, and help you understand how human behavior tends to work and function. So I'm going to begin by talking about conceptual thinking. Now, part of our axiology report talks about this. It talks about conceptual thinking, and it's known as structured thinking when we talk about axiology. Axiology is the science of value. Axiology represents how we find meaning. And I may take on these separately in the future, in future podcasts, which right now seems like a good idea. But today I want to talk about the structured thinking aspect, the conceptual thinking, and then give you some things to think about on top of it. So let me just explain to you a little bit about concepts and systems. So as human beings, we live in a three-dimensional world. And you can't get away from that. You're in a three-dimensional world all the time. And that three-dimensional world consists of three specific things that will, determine these dimensions. Number one is people. So one of the dimensions that you're living in is the people dimension. And that means there are people on this planet other than you. We marry these people, we date these people, we work with these people, we drive on the same highways as these people, we share the grocery store, the bank, we wait in lines, and there's people in front of us, there's people in back of us. This entire mask mandate is based on shared existence. Shared existence means it's not only you on this planet, and you are with other people sharing space. Separate existence would be living on a desert island all by yourself. And that's typically not how people live today. So we live in shared space. And while we are in that shared space, what we do, how we think, how we act, all these different things are going to have an effect on the people around us, how we engage with them. If you're with someone in a relationship, then there's expectations, there's requests, there's requirements, there's negotiations, all going on between you and the people around you, especially when you're in relationship with them. And that could be marriage, it could be friendship, it could be work. So that's the people system. We're not going to talk about that system today, but that's one of the dimensions. The next dimension is the dimension of practical thinking. And the practical dimension is all about what we do. So there's people, and then there's things that we're doing. There's projects that we are part of in this world. So the practical thinking is about understanding more or less the consequences of your specific choices and actions and what kind of results they're going to bring to bear. How well or how clearly do you understand that what you're about to do or the decision you're about to make, how that decision is going to affect specific outcomes that you're looking for, targeted results in any project or thing you're working on. So what might that look like? How about an automobile, a car? So think about a car for a minute. You're driving a car, which is a thing, and if you step on the gas, you're going to get a specific result. If you step on the brake, you're going to get another result. And to bring in the first dimension we talked about, which is the people dimension, there are other people on the highway, driving next to you, behind you, in front of you. And if you've driven a car, then you know that you're always scanning in their rear view mirror. You're scanning the side view mirror. Why do we have mirrors in cars? Because we share the road with people. So that's the shared existence. The human beings are on the road that you're sharing, and you're in a machine, and that is a thing, and your actions and your decisions in accordance with that thing are going to make determined results. Do you know what will happen if you jam the brake on in this particular situation? Do you know what will happen if you take a hard right turn without putting a blinker on, or whatever the case may be? So again, in shared space, we're dealing with things, and we're also dealing with people. Now, in relationship to people and things, things are made for people. People are not made for things. So you have to keep this in order. So people first, things come second. All right? You don't put things above people. You don't throw out the baby and keep the car. All right? That would make you a psychopath. All right. And then we're not going to talk a whole lot about that dimension today, but I'm just getting you warmed up. The dimension we're going to talk about is the structured thinking dimension, or the dimension of concepts in systems. Now, this dimension, it includes proper systems, order, and the thinking that we use for forecasting and planning and organizing and things of that sort. Structured thinking, it measures how much attention we place on the importance of following precise protocols and established guidelines while attempting to achieve our results through things and people. So these precise protocols, these concepts, are structures that we've created in our minds. All right? I believe that, fill in the blank, okay? I believe Donald Trump is a narcissist, let's say. So that's a concept. That's a system of thinking. It's an image you have in your mind based upon several things. It might be based upon your experience with him. It may be based upon what others have said about him. Now, if you've never met him, you don't know if any of these things are true, and neither do I. Think about President-elect at this point, Joe Biden. So what you believe and think about Joe Biden is based upon your concepts, your mental images that you've produced in your mind about this individual based upon what you've heard, what you've seen, and if it dovetails with what you've already believed before meeting him, understanding him, seeing him, or even knowing he exists. And the same with the Trump phenomenon. It's the same thing. So what happens is you already have concepts, structured images built in to your mind already. And then we look at the world around us to see if there's a match, okay? So whatever you already believe about anything, that is what will be true for you. If I believe differently than you, then that will not be true for me, okay? Now, as of late, or more recently, and I'm going to say 10 to 20 years, maybe, there's this phrase that has really floated to the surface of humanity, especially in the States, and it's called your truth. And you've probably heard this. I see it on social media where people are cheering folks for standing strong with their truth. What is your truth? What is my truth? That's another way of saying your concept, your beliefs, okay? We all have our own beliefs, and it becomes our truth. Now, let me just say this. It has nothing to do with whether it's true or false or right or wrong. That's your subjective concept. So I might see, quote, your truth and disagree with it and say, that's not true, but that's based on my concept of what true is. So you will always have differentiation and dissimilarities between your concepts and the people around you who have their own concepts. Each human brain is its own universe with its own planets, its own star system, its own nebulae, its own laws, its own type of gravity, and so on and so forth, its own types of molecules, its own types of quarks, its own types of charm quarks and up quarks and down quarks, its own neutrinos, and they all live according to their own laws based upon that universe in your head, okay? So this is why we say some people live in their own universe. Well, truth be told, everybody is living in their own universe. And what we do is we compare universes. And if there's enough similarity and enough agreement, we form tribes. And that's how humanity works. We become driven to seek those who think similar to the way we think, and we join forces in solidarity in an effort to become stronger and more safe and more secure within our conceptual universe. Okay? So whatever or whoever we trust in the world, then we believe, which is a conceptual way of thinking, that they are trustworthy. Well, until they're not, right? And so we will believe, we will choose to believe that a particular person is trustworthy, and usually the criteria that we base our trust on is similarities that we see in them that we have in our own minds, that we've created in our own minds. And this is called group think. So group think is when you have more than one person thinking similar thoughts about how things ought to be in the world. How things ought to be is our concept. Okay, here's a good example. If I'm one to make a lot of copies on a copy machine in my work, and let's say I'm making 90% of the copies out of everybody in the office. I'm making the most copies. Now let's imagine that the copy machine is down the hall to the right in this room that is, for some reason, sometimes locked. So I have to walk through the office and find out who's got the key, and then I get the key, I open the door, and I go in and I make my copies. Now, there are some people that will do that for a long time and not change anything. There are some people who, on their way to make copies, will talk to the different people in the hall and in their cubicles and so forth, and use that as an opportunity to relate. There are other people who will do that one time, and then they will think to themselves, I need my own key. Now that thought right there, I need my own key, is a concept. It's a structured form of thinking. If I have my own key, I don't have to look for it. Now, not everybody's going to think that, mind you. Now, probably most will, but not everyone. So you're thinking that copy machine should be in my office is a form of structured thinking. So the way this office should be structured, see, notice the word should be. So structure is a future concept. All right? It's a future concept. So if you believe that copy machine should be in my office, that's a structured concept about how things ought to be as it relates to the copy machine, keys, hallways, and locked doors. All right? And so you might go purchase your own copy machine, hook it up to your own laptop or your own desktop in your own office and make your own copies and not worry about anything after that. Well, that would mean you are a specific type of person, okay? So I'm just using these metaphors and these pictures to help you understand how concepts work. Whatever we desire, that is what we will seek. Whatever we desire, that is what we will seek. All right? So when we go out into the world, when I say the world, I mean we get out into shared space. And let's say we go to work. Then we're sharing space with other people. We're sharing space with people who have differing ideas than we have. We're sharing space in an environment of things and systems. All right? So let's put it this way. I leave the house, I get in my car, I share the road with you. I'm in a thing. I'm sharing a road with you who is a person, and I am driving within a system. The system is the conceptual piece. The system is the highway system. There's breakdown lanes, double lines, dotted lines, all right? There's stop signs, yield signs, green lights, red lights, yellow lights. Crosswalks, off-ramps, on-ramps, one way, this way, that way. That's a system. It's called the highway system or the transit system. It's a system. It's a conceptual system that has boundaries and rules and structures and order, all right? And if you're planning your trip well and you're organized around the system of travel, you'll have a better time. If you are not, if you don't embrace the system, you're going to get a ticket if you get caught because there are enforcers of the system, okay? So I want you to move from traveling to politics. There are political systems. There are political concepts. There are libertarians, conservatives, liberals, progressives, right? There are all these different kinds of people that adhere to a political system, and they live within the system as if driving on a system of roads and signs. Okay, and it's the same thing. And so when we vote for a person to control the system, then we want a person who thinks in line with the system we want to control ourselves, but can't because we don't have enough clout. So we hire someone who does and appoint them to lead our systemic thinking process in the world as we work with things and people. Okay? And that's how politics works. The same way with religion. We will join a group of people who adhere to the same kind of concept we adhere to the degree that there's agreement, we will join the religious system. Okay? And when you get in that religious system, there are rules, there's order, there's forecasting, planning, organizing, and so there are protocols and established guidelines while trying to achieve the results of a good life within that system. Okay? And so if you look at any kind of a church, they are organized according to a system. You go in and you chat and you have coffee, and then you walk through the big double doors, and there's usually a man and a woman who will greet you, shake your hand, give you a pamphlet about how the order of service will go according to our system. Okay, there's a system of dress, which is a code, of a dress code. There's a particular language. Hello, brother. Hello, sister. Hello, apostle so-and-so, prophet so-and-so, pastor so-and-so. There's a system of organized, structured people, apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, all according to the system. You go in, you sit down, we sing, we stand, we sit, everybody doing this together according to the system. We're all facing the same way. We're all facing the same direction. There's people up on a platform, there's everybody else is in seats, and there's, the people in the back that look like hitmen, standing, with earbuds, and some of them are carrying, firearms, to make sure there's order in the system. Nobody comes in and starts shooting the place up or whatever, but they're keeping order according to the system. All of this is systemic. This is a systemic part of living. If you go to a daycare center, there's a system. You drop the baby off. You can't come behind the counter. If you're ordering a prescription, there's a system. If you're dropping off your dog at doggy daycare, there's a system. You walk in, you hand them the leash. There's a system. You fill out a form. There's systems and concepts in everywhere we go. And there are some systems that we automatically gravitate towards because they are in agreement with our own concepts. So everybody seeks the concept that agrees with their own concept, and they join the system. Okay? So whatever we despise, that is what is bad. So we have certain beliefs about what is good. We have certain beliefs about what is bad in the systems that we live in. Now, even in systems, there are smaller systems. Okay, in the Progressive Party, there are offshoots. In the Democratic Party, there are offshoots of progressive people are one offshoot within a Democratic Party. There's a liberal. There's leaning more left, even more left, even more left. And every time you lean more left, you're in a new system within the system. Every time you lean to the center, then you could be center left, you could be center right in the system. You could be far right in the system. And if you go all the way to the right based upon human concepts of political systems, then you are neo-Nazis, okay, according to most people's idea of that system. Neo-Nazi language comes from the system of the left. And so the system of the right have their own language to talk about the system on the left, and they too will never agree. And that's how human beings work. That's how human beings have acted for all of time. The Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians all had their own systems. Cuneiform writing system. There's Hammurabi's Code. It was a system. Systems of marriage, systems of law, systems of politics. There are always people, there are always things, and there are always systems. And we live in our own universe, and within our universe, we look out into the broader universe and we look for systems that agree with our concepts, and we join the systems. Okay, so remember, these are concepts. They're mental images we create in our minds out of nothing but life and experience, our DNA, our moods, and all these different things. These mental images become the driving force behind our emotions and our behaviors. And right now, there's a lot of emotions going on. There's a lot of despair. There's a lot of jubilance. There's a lot going on within people's universes because the system, the planets are aligning for the system they believe in right now in the world. Okay? Now, our behaviors, our emotions, and the systems in our minds become the driving force. The roots and the shoots that are going to determine what we're going to consistently and continually believe in the future. So there becomes a process of solidification where our systems start to set up like concrete, and they become structured in like deep pylons into the earth, and nothing can move them. Okay? So this is why people die for their beliefs, because they are set up in concrete. Okay, it's the only part of human nature that sets up like concrete. It's the conceptual systems we believe in. All right. Now, I want you to consider North Korea for a minute. So, from my perspective, Kim Jong-un is a brutal psychopathic dictator. Now, from the perspective of the individuals under his control, he is their dear leader. They love him. They sacrifice their food to him. They will never talk ill of him, even in the company of their own homes. Now, there's been plenty of people that have gone into North Korea for a time and interviewed people and so forth and so on. And some psychiatrists in the States say that North Korea is the largest concentration camp in the world, okay? Because they are landlocked, and everything they look at on their media platforms is designed according to a specific system. So they only see one system of thinking. They really don't know about other systems. They don't know a lot about America or Australia or any of the Western countries whose systems aren't as stifling as the North Korean system. So what do? They learn to love and appreciate the system they know and understand, and they will believe that is the only system that exists. And any ideas of any other systems is bad. And so their truth is not my truth when it comes to freedom and autonomy. So next year, it looks like we're going to be under new leadership. And that's going to be President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. I'm not going to go into my truth about my thoughts about those particular individuals and their beliefs. It does no good. But as a citizen, what am I going to do within the system? Because the system is going to change. And And then they will bring in their concepts through people that they will appoint to cabinet positions who think the same way or a similar way that they do, and in accordance to a different kind of system than the conservative system that I align myself with. Not entirely, but just like you, within systems, you pick and choose which part of the system speaks to your concepts. Okay? So even though I call myself a conservative, there may be things that I think that another conservative will look at and say, you're not a conservative because conservatives think like this. And then he will tell me his systemic thinking process. Okay? It's the same as in religion. There are 42,000 differing denominations within the Christian system. Okay? So there are always differences within the system. Think about the Holy Bible, for instance. A lot of people will promote the idea that the Holy Bible is the concept. The Holy Bible is the structure. The Holy Bible is the proper order and thinking necessary for living a good life. And so they embrace that system and believe there is no other system like it. Same with the Quran, same with the Talmud, same with whatever, the Mormon Bible, the Catholic Bible, whatever, the Book of Enoch, whatever it is, whatever the system, they will take that system as if it's outside of themselves, and then they will live up to the system. Okay? Now, what we do is we look to, let's say, the Holy Scriptures, and we look to that systemic writ that is a black and white writ. So just like traffic laws, you either stopped at the intersection or you didn't. There is no such thing as a rolling stop. To be more concise, you are either pregnant or you are not pregnant. You can't be sort of pregnant. It's impossible. Okay? So within every system, there is a regulated sense in the system where it becomes very either or driven. For instance, thou shalt not kill. Okay? There are no options here. Okay? According to that system. All right? That system of thinking. Now, for most people, killing and not killing is universal across all boards. Okay? In other words, killing a human being is a bad thing for probably 90 some odd % of the world's population. But killing people in accordance with a system is fine. Okay? And so you have people that live according to a specific system and will blow up a whole shopping center filled with innocent people because according to a specific part of a specific system, that's okay. And so it's really important that you understand that within the system, there's right and wrong universally across all systems and then individually within systems. Okay? And so in the 80s and early 90s, people were blowing up abortion clinics, and they thought it was a good idea according to the system that they were in. So they were within a system, within a system, within a system of Christianity. Okay? You look at the Old Testament of the Bible. When the Israelites, according to the story, they came into Jericho and they marched around the city for 7 days. And on the seventh day, they blew all their trumpets and played all their instruments. And according to the story, all the walls of the city fell down. And they went into that city, and the Israelites killed every man, every woman, every child, all the animals. They ripped open pregnant women and threw the babies in the streets. It was really your first ancient Hebrew situation of genocide, okay? But it was a good thing according to Yahweh's system, or the concept of Yahweh. And so this is what people do. When people do horrific things, they will blame it on the system. Even the Apostle Paul in the New Testament of the Bible, was living according to a very specific concept. And it was a system of beliefs that worked within a systematic concept within his Jewish faith. And so, the Apostle Paul talks about this in Romans chapter 7 in the scriptures, where he says, the things that I want to do, those aren't the things that I end up doing. The things that I don't want to do, I actually end up doing those. Okay, well, what is that all about? In other words, he has the idea of a system of living, but he isn't able to do it. He says, this is the concept that I must live up to. It's a concept and a system outside of myself based upon my, quote, revelations that are part of his own universe in his own brain. And I struggle to live up to those concepts. He may do it once in a while, but he's in a dilemma, and he writes about it. And he says, that which I want to do, I don't do. That which I don't want to do, that's what I end up doing. So what does Paul do? He comes up with a concept in himself that looks like this. Oh, it is no longer I who do it. It is sin that dwells in me. So now he's created a new concept. In my heart, or in my mind, I desire and delight in the law of God. But in my members, as he calls it, in my body, in my actions, in my behaviors, I don't live up to it. So what do we do? Well, I'm going to focus on my intentions, not my actions. And because my intentions are good, then my actions are forgiven. So what he says is, it is now sin that dwelleth in me. So with my heart, I long after the law of God, but in my body, I don't live up to it. And this has led to modern day bumper stickers that say, I am under construction. God is not through with me yet. I'm not perfect, just forgiven. All of this is based upon Paul's concept and system. Okay? So we do this in our faith, in our beliefs, and then we come up with systems and concepts that do not verify if what we are doing is the right thing to do. They justify what we already believe. So you, as a human being, are not likely to ever seek to verify if what you believe is right or true. What you will do is seek situations, proofs, testimonials, experiences, and other people who will agree with you that your system of thinking is true. We do not seek to verify our truths. Nobody does. We seek to justify them. Did you hear that? We do not seek to verify if whether or not my politics are good. We seek to justify the feelings we have. This is known as the elephant in the rider doctrine. The elephant and the rider doctrine are basically the idea that the objective, reasonable sense within my brain is a servant and a slave to my emotional desires. Okay? So what I want, what I desire, all right, what I believe is true, no matter what. Okay? Now, I left Christianity about, how many years ago now? I'm going to say 7 years ago. I just left because I just could not live within the system anymore. Now, during recent times, these political upheaval, this, that, and the other, I've realized there's one thing I really miss about being in that world and being in that system. And it's this. When I was in that system, no matter what happened, no matter how bad it got, I mean, it didn't matter how bad, grotesque, unimaginable, ridiculous, unbelievable. It didn't matter what my life, my situations, my financial standing, my employment standing. It didn't matter what anything looked like. It was all according to God's plan. I never sought to verify if whether or not what I was believing was stupid. Never, 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 never. I only sought to justify why my beliefs are correct. And for years and years and years and years, I never read or sought information outside of the system I was in that opposed it. Matter of fact, when I was in seminary, I was taught to never do that. Never read anything that detracts from the systems and the concepts you've been taught. And Scripture teaches this too, by the way. And so I never did. But then, I couldn't help it. I'm a curious boy. So around 1993, I started wavering. And I started researching and studying. Now, I've put in well over 20,000 hours into studying the Bible in all those years. And those of you that have consulted with me, I pull a lot of those concepts out in my consulting and use stories and metaphors and things like this because I think they're great for that. And there's a lot of cool principles and blah, 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 and a lot of wisdom of Solomon I really appreciate and like. But I don't, I'm of the idea that we don't, human beings, because they live in their own universe, which is their own mind, they don't get their morality from the Bible. They bring their morality to the Bible, in my opinion. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you read that, in Leviticus, that, if the woman you marry is not a virgin, take her to the doorstep, her father's doorstep, and stone her to death. We today look at that and go, you know what? That's nuts. That's crazy. So we're not getting our morality from that. We're bringing our morality to that, and we say that's crazy. And when the Bible talks about slavery, you can break their teeth out and you can beat them, and as long as they survive, it's okay. We look at that and say that's crazy. When you look to the New Testament and you got a young couple who sold some land and the apostles want the money, and then they lie to them and say, well, here's the money, but they held some back, probably because they wanted to eat or something, who knows. And then God kills them. And they drag them out by their feet. We look at that and say, that's crazy. But then we say, forgive one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. And we're like, okay, that sounds good. Love your enemies. Oh, that sounds good. Be good to those who mistreat you. Okay, that sounds good. Be content with your wages. That sounds good. So we today, no matter where you are in whatever holy book you've got, you will look at that and pick and choose what works for you and throw the rest of it into the garbage or ignore it. Because we have our own concepts. They're built in from birth, from the environments we were in growing up, from school and peers and parents and all these different pieces. And we rummage through it all and we pick out the things that we like. It's just like when you're trying to declutter your house, or you're trying to get rid of a bunch of junk in your garage, and it's been sitting up there for 5 years, and you pull the box down, you're going through it, and you're going, oh, I'll keep this. Even though you haven't used it in 5 years, you can't let it go, right? And so think of your brain like your garage or your attic. It's just filled with stuff. And then whenever we're forced to look at it, we pick and choose what we're going to keep, and we throw the rest out. We do that with everything. Okay, so I'm getting off track. I think I'm going all over the place. So I want to bring this back so I can close the podcast. So let's think about next year. Let's think about right now. Let's think about where you are and what system you're living in. And I'm going to give you 20 things to think about and to ponder that I believe will really help you navigate not only your own system, but the system you're in, the systems you've assigned yourself to as a member of that system. And it could be a political system. It could be a religious system. It could be your own system, okay? But I believe personally that these 20 things will be helpful to anyone who will pick them up, look at them, and say, you know what, I'll do that. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm sharing with you my systemic thinking. It's mine. It's not yours. It's mine, okay? These are my thoughts. I own them. They're mine, all right? They're not yours. These are my thoughts. And what I've decided to do is let you into my garage and look in my boxes, rummage through my shelves, okay? So I'm going to, in the next few minutes, open up the garage and let you see some of the stuff that I got in there. And, so, I'm having a yard sale, okay? Except I'm not selling it. I'm giving it away. And if you see anything you like, I love going to yard sales because I love trinkets. I love gadgets, little cool things. And maybe there's a trinket or a gadget here that you might want to adopt and have it as your own so that you can help fulfill your concept in your system. All right? All right. What are these 20 things? Number one, I believe our sphere of influence is about a 10-foot radius circle around us, and that's my space. My clients, when I'm on the phone or when I'm on Zoom, they are in that circle because we can see each other. So even though that circle is 10 foot here in my office right now, it's 10 foot into the universe as long as I can see you and hear you and communicate with you, okay? That's the 10-foot radius. That's the 10-foot circle. That's your space. That's my space. Anybody who enters that space, treat with love and respect. If you do that, I believe life can be better if you're doing something different. All right? So the first point is we all have a 10-foot circle. Okay? And I just want you to think about that. That is your domain. That is your universe. In that universe are your concepts. And when other people enter your world, let's say, treat them with love and respect. So point one is you have a 10-foot radius. Point two, anyone who enters it, treat them with love and respect. Number three, this is a big one. Never give advice to a person unless they ask you for advice. Never. Never do it. I believe, according to my concepts and my thinking, that if you do not give advice, people will ask you for advice. If they believe you are adhering to concepts that are better than theirs. Okay? Now, that's not something you have to determine. They have to determine it for it to be legitimate. If you try to tell somebody that your concept is better than their concept, it's a wasted game. Don't do it, in my opinion. Don't do it. They are none of your business. Other people are none of my business. They're none of my business. They are none of my business. And so we run into trouble when we're making everybody's concepts our business. It's called nosy. Okay? So anyone who enters your circle, treat them with love and respect. Never give them advice unless they ask for it. Never. Support the weak, number 4. There will always be people stronger than you, and there will always be people weaker than you. Stronger in mind, stronger in resolution, stronger in faith, stronger in intelligence, stronger in social intelligence, stronger in knowledge, stronger in math. There will always be people stronger than you. There's nothing going to change that. And there will always be people weaker than you. Financially, emotionally, religiously, politically, IQ, EQ, whatever it is. There's always weaker people. There's always stronger people. Always. When weak people enter your space, support them. If you have the means to assist them, and your assistance will not fall on infertile ground, then you should plant a tree. Now, what does that mean? It means this. If you have the wherewithal to help somebody who could use your help, and that help will work and be put to good use and not be wasted, help them. Period. Done. End of story. Make it a rule. Okay? So this is what I do. If I have the wherewithal to assist an individual who's weaker in any area, and that my assistance will help in some way, I always do it. Now, keyword, the keyword is wherewithal. So don't overextend yourself, because then you're becoming dumber. All right? Only if you have extra. I never recommend you go in the hole for somebody else, because when you're in a hole, you can't pick them up. All right? That's just my thinking. It's my concept. You can't have it unless you already have one, but it's not for sale. All right? That's the way I think, and I'm just sharing it. I'm sharing thoughts with you. It's not advice to you. It's thoughts with you. You can do what you want with it. And so support the weak if you have the means to assist. And that assistance is going to make a difference. Then you should do it. All right? All right, what else? Number 5. Never tell someone what to think or believe. Now, I find, when I was in faith, this was a mandate. It was a mandate. Go ye therefore into all the world and disciple and teach everybody to think like you. All right? What am I thinking like? I've adopted a concept that wasn't my own, and it became mine, and my role as a human being was to get everybody to buy the concept, to believe the concept, to live by the concept. And if they didn't, then I had to tell them why not believing in my concept was going to be to the death of them. And, that type of a thing. Now, I never liked it, but I did it. And I did it with all my might. And the people that knew me back then in the 80s, they experienced it. And, for most part, it wasn't good. Okay? So I was extremely dogmatic. I was extremely regulated in my thinking. Until somebody finally came down on me and said, dude, you got to relax. The hell? Although they didn't say hell. That's a no-no under that concept. So I was always wanting to tell someone what to think and how to believe. That was my mission. That was my goal. I went to school to learn how to be an expert at doing it. Okay? So now my concept has shifted. I don't believe that's my job. So I believe we should keep our concepts to ourselves unless asked about the concept. Well, how would no one even know to ask you about your concept? They watch your life and like what they see, and they look at their own life, and there's parts of it they don't like what they see, so they might want to know, hey, what do you do in this situation? What do you think about this? I've built an entire business on people coming to me and wanting to know more about themselves, okay, because I'm a behaviorist. So, and that's a really fun job. And so I don't tell them what to do. I help them understand how they're wired and how's it working out for you. And then the entire rest of the consultation is, can you help me? Tell me what to do. Tell me what you think. Tell me. And it becomes just this open exchange of ideas. And it's wonderful because nothing's forced. It's an even exchange. All right, number 6. If you're watching the news and it makes you feel bad, stop watching the news. All right, if you watch the news and it makes you feel bad, stop watching it. Take small bites. Don't gorge. All right, we got a lot of people who are gorging on information, and it's really messing them up. Don't do it. Go swimming, go on a walk, read a book, do something. Just don't do it, because what is the news? Concepts. It's concepts. The news is no longer the news, folks. The news is now reality shows who promote concepts. Okay? Fox News is a promoter of a conservative concept. CNN is an organization whose job is to make disciples of a concept. Fox is making disciples. CNN is making disciples. Folks, these are churches. They're churches. They get up there to influence you on how to believe. And they tell stories, most of which are made up based upon the concepts to keep the tribe going. Okay? Did you know that human beings need something to fight? Okay? That's why Christians have a devil. We need things to fight. We need something to overcome. We need to win. People need to win. The brain wants to win. So what do? We look for what we think are winners in accordance with our concepts. And we join those teams. And what do entrepreneurs do? They're creating their own teams to win their own game according to their own concept in their own universe in life. And they build a tribe. Okay? So companies, communities, clubs, politics, religion, families, they're all concepts. They're all groups of people in solidarity with a belief. And if they don't like the belief, the kids run away from home, the people leave church, they leave their political tribe, and they go on to something else. So as soon as your concept stops working for you, you leave the concept. But no one can talk you out of the concept if it's working for you. So never bother doing it. It is a grand waste of time. Okay? It really is. And so keep your concepts to yourself unless you're asked. All right? And if the news, those concepts that you're watching are putting you into turmoil because all it does is criticize and make fun of another concept that isn't yours, so you'll stay away from it, turn it the hell off. Okay? All right, number 7. Focus your energy on what matters to you and what increases your well-being. Okay? Now, I'm a firm believer. Notice the word believer, so this is a concept. I'm a firm believer that the more you increase your well-being, the more emotionally healthy and productive you will become. When your well-being is not promoted, enhanced, or built, and I don't care how you do it. I don't care how you do it. But if your well-being is increased and you feel better in the world, then you will treat people better if you feel better. People that don't feel good don't treat people good. Hurt people, folks. It's just the way it is. And so focus your energy on what matters to you and what increases your well-being. Number 8, stay away from fruitless tangents and ridiculous arguments. Now, I think everybody knows this is a good idea. It's a good concept because it is a time vampire. Fruitless tangents. What is that? It's going off on a tangent, and when you're done, nothing happened. Okay? There's no growth. There's no one's better off. Everybody's upset or hurt or something not good. And ridiculous arguments is dealing with nonsensical arguments. Now, there are levels of conversation, all right? Argument is the third. Fight is the fourth. And so when you get into conversations, we can share ideas. That's a conversation. You're just sharing ideas on an even playing field, right? This happens with best friends, typically because your ideas are similar. Most people aren't best friends with someone who has an anti-concept in comparison to yours, all right? We tend to hang around people that think like we do. Birds of a feather flock together, okay? So that's called a discussion. A discussion is the first level of communication. It's, hi, how are you? How was your day? Great. Isn't the weather wonderful? Yeah, you look nice today. So do you. Blah, blah, blah. All right? And that's a discussion. Then the next level is a disagreement. I love this weather. Oh, it's too humid for me. Oh, okay. And maybe I look at you and you are showing some sweat. I'm not sweating. Okay, so it doesn't feel human to me. So that's a difference in opinion. And it's a disagreement, but that's all it is. It's, oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, this must suck for you then. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. Then you go to argument. What is that? It's trying to convince you to think other than the way you're thinking. Stop thinking that way and think my way. Okay? And your way is just something you've adopted from somebody else's way. All right? So again, this is how these concepts get thrown around. And then after that, it's fighting, which is making you pay for not agreeing with me by calling you names, hurling insults, whatever I got to do. All right? Which is funny because that's what our presidential debates were. They were fights. They were fights. They were arguments and fights. There was no disagreement and there was no conversation. All right? No discussions. No disagreements. It was all arguments and fights, calling names, hurling insults, trying to destroy my opponent because you won't adopt my concept. Okay. Work like mad and seek a life of limited or no debt. I am of the idea, which is a concept, that debt isn't great. It's not good. I don't like being beholden to other people. And so I'm just going to leave that there. Now, some people are not in a position to be out of debt to any extent. So now what? Well, then we go back to the beginning of that sentence, work like mad. King Solomon said, in all labor there's profit, but the talk of the lips tends only to penury. What does that mean? I mean, if you just talk about it, you'll go broke. But if you do a lot, you'll gain more wealth. So it's something you have to work for and strategize for and be determined about. Because money doesn't come to you unless you create a pathway for it. And that takes work. It's like digging a ditch. All right. Number 10, stop complaining. No one wants to hear it. Now, this is my concept. I can't stand complaining. I've never liked it. And I'm not saying I've never done it. Of course I have. But I rarely do it. I'm a person who's always looked at my life and thought, this is a bed that I made. I've always believed my decisions were my fault. I've always believed my life is my fault. I've always believed that, and those who know me really well can attest to that. I've always believed my life was my fault. I never believed my life was the fault of something else. I've never believed that. If I didn't like my job, I left. I didn't blame everybody else's concept, or I didn't blame everybody else's behavior. I didn't blame everybody else's work ethic. I didn't blame anybody for anything. I'm like, why am I staying here, Stevie? And I leave. And so if I want to make this much money, I have to figure out how to do that. And if I can't do it, that's my fault. I'm either too slow, not smart enough, whatever. Look at every human being has been dealt 5 cards. Every human being has been dealt 5 cards. Okay? I don't have any aces. I've probably got a 2, a 4, a 6, a 10, and a king. All right? That's it. That's all I got. So what am I going to do with those cards? Well, I got to play them well because I can't change them. All right? I can't change them because I choose to change the cards. They are what they are. I am what I am. I am here. This is who I am. I still suck at math. I failed math. In high school, I failed. The only reason why I graduated high school is because my geometry teacher told me I could draw well. And he gave me a D. So I had to take some remediatory classes in math to graduate. And I did. And then I graduated. Okay? Am I a math whiz today? No, I am not a math whiz. I was dealt a 3 when it came to math. I don't have an ace. My son has an ace in math. He excelled in math. Math was boring to him. I don't have that card. Right? I don't have that card. I don't walk around complaining about it. I don't pout. I just stay away from math. Right? But where's my king? What's my king card? My intuition. My intuition is a king. It's not an ace, but it's a king. And that one card has opened up every door for me that's been positive and amazing. It's been a couple of things, a 10 and a king, and I keep playing those cards. And over time, I have learned to play them well. I don't throw them down and quit the game because I don't have an ace. Elon Musk has 3 aces. Okay? He's got way better hand than I have. Then I could list you people all day long that have better hands than me. All right? But I don't complain about it. All right. I got to move on. This is taking too long. Find common ground with those who differ. There will always be people that have a different opinion than you do and have a different concept than you have. So find where there's agreement and then focus on that. If you're trying to focus on the other, it's because you think your concepts are better than theirs. That's the only reason why we do that. So stay away from it if you want to have a better life. Spend equal time learning beyond your current concepts by listening to podcasts or audiobooks that present opposing ideas. Okay, this is what I was taught most of my life not to do, but I started doing it anyway, simply because I had a curious card, all right? I had a joker in there, I guess. So I was curious, so I started reading more and more and more and more, and then when the internet came on board, oh my gosh, I was open to all these different universities and books and publications and ideas. I've always been an idea person. I've always been a seeker of information. And on my behavioral profile, my curiosity line is a 99 out of 100. Okay? So I've always been a seeker of information. I love learning new things. Okay? When I started listening and looking and leaning and learning concepts I disagreed with, my world opened up and I adopted some of them. I ended up adopting some of them and my life got better. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. So spend your time learning beyond your current concepts. I'll just say this, tear down that wall. I believe it'll be helpful for you. Embrace the idea that you don't know anything. You're learning. All right? You are learning. We are all learning and it'll never end. We don't know anything like we think we do. Well, all we've done is we've bought into a limited concept, we've staked our claim, and we stopped digging for gold. That's it. Okay? So make sure you embrace the idea that you don't know anything and there's always more to know. And you'll be surprised at what it might be, and you'll be surprised at what you might adopt if you gave yourself the chance to look at it, understand it, and take it in. And this includes talking to people that think differently than you. You know, I have all different kinds of clients from all different walks of life, from all different everything, gays and lesbians and liberals and progressives and conservatives and Christians and atheists and Mormons and all clients. And every time I talk with one of my clients, we have a ball. It's wonderful. And it's so great to not think that my job on this call is at some point trying to get them to think like me. Oh my God. It's so wonderful not to have to do that anymore. Be content to know nothing, do nothing, and be known for nothing. Now, I put this in one of my books. It's called The Death That Counts. I learned this from a friend of mine, Doug Dyke, who was a Mennonite, turned Pentecostal, turned I don't know what now, but very, very strict conceptual thinker. But I learned a lot from him. And he taught me this. And this was in 1994. He said, you got to be content to know nothing, do nothing, and be known for nothing. And that is the death that counts. Oh, it changed my life. I use it all the time when I'm working with people. If you're not content to know nothing, and you're not content to do nothing, and you're not content to be known for nothing, you won't be as good of a leader as you are when you're content to know nothing, do nothing, and be known for nothing. Because all you're doing is striving, all you're doing is reaching, all you're doing is competing. It's what I call the Moses Conundrum, okay? The Moses Conundrum. Whether you believe the Moses story or not, I tend not to believe most of that story, but it's a great story nonetheless. And the story is that he decided he was going to rescue all the Hebrews from Egypt and be manager of the universe, and it didn't work. So he's ousted out of Egypt. If you've ever watched The Prince of Egypt, he goes to the backside of the desert for 40 years looking at sheep ass and under the tutelage of his father-in-law. And he's finally content to know nothing, do nothing, and be known for nothing. And then the story that becomes the burning bush happens, and that's his inciting incident. And after that inciting incident, he's changed his thinking. He's changed his mind. He no longer is he's no longer appointing himself as manager of the universe. He's trying to resist it. So the voice comes out of the burning bush and says, I want you to go to Egypt and free my people, blah, 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 blah. And he says, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough. I can't talk. I have a stutter. My speech is bad. And he's just denying. But the more he does it, the more he's qualified to do it. The same concept you can see in the movie Gladiator. When Russell Crowe is speaking with the emperor before the emperor dies, he's getting older, and he wants him to, basically take over and carry on his concepts and his lineage after he's dead over his son, played by Joaquin Phoenix, over his son. And he says, with everything within me, the answer has to be no. And then the emperor looks at him and puts his hand on both of his shoulders and says, that is why you must. It's the inciting incident of the movie. It's fabulous. Okay. Find people to congratulate, not criticize. Find people to congratulate, not criticize. And if you feel critical, just keep it to yourself. All right, that's number 15. Number 16. If your job is self-appointed manager of the universe, you need to resign. How often have I told somebody that they need to resign their job of being manager of the universe when I was consulting them? So great. Speak positively, not negatively. All right. King Solomon has a lot of great quotes about this. Words fitly spoken are like, golden apples, right? A word spoken out of turn is like taking somebody's jacket in the time of winter. Well, it just means not good, right? So positive words are good. Negative words are bad. Positive words build. Negative words take. All right? Don't be a taker. Be a builder. Very powerful. Know when to smile and nod. It lays controversy to rest. You know how often I'm just smiling and nodding and listening? Oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, what? On the inside. I'm just like, what are you talking about? But on the outside, it's like, oh, okay. Smile and nod. And you know what? Everything's good as it should be. Everything goes on smooth. It's not my job to correct you. And so, emotional intelligence is knowing when to be quiet. Emotional intelligence is knowing that what you're about to say is going to do nothing. Okay? Now, those that want to say it anyway, that's a problem. All right? Not good. Number 19. We're almost done. Seek advice from those whose life works well. Resist advice from those who repeatedly make mistakes. All right. If you're going to talk to me about marriage, hopefully you've had one. Okay? If you've had 4 marriages, don't talk to me about marriage. All right? So I like to put it this way. Talk to those and seek advice from those who have succeeded in the area where you're failing. And you're going to get some good information. And then finally, live as though this is your last week on earth. Love hard. Always be considerate. Always be thinking, what can I do to improve the situation? And live as though you've got a week left. And I don't want to, make this too twee here because it's overused in my opinion. But make choices that are going to work towards bettering your immediate circumstances as much as you can. And this is my thinking. These are some of my concept. These are some of, quote, my truths. I'm not saying any of them are true. I'm saying they're my true. And And I try my hardest to live like this, and you're trying hard to live like you live. And maybe you have 20 things that you equally appreciate and that you could share with the world in a way that causes people to feel like they are free to look at those things like your stuff in your garage and picking through it to see something they might want to take home. All right? All right, well, that's it. This is your buddy old pal, Steve Sisler, and this is Behavioral Insights. And I hope to talk to you next time about one of the other realms in axiology. This has been the structured thinking realm, the realm of concepts. And until next time, have a great